A big thank you to Squarespace for sponsoring this video and making van life possible. The last couple of months have been a wild adventure, so it's nice that our website takes care of itself, but more on that later. So today we're going to show you how we find the best wild camping spots for our van, which means if you don't know what a wild camping spot is, it's basically where we park our van for free at night in the most incredible remote locations.
Once in a while.
Once in a while. I mean, we do spend a fair amount of time in parking lots, in campsites, and in loud, horrible places because that's just the nature of van life. But every once in a while, you find the most beautiful, special, quiet, and serene spot to park the van. And when we do find those spots, we like to stay as long as we can before we get moved on or feel like we've gotten our fill at that location. So my favorite thing about van life is definitely wild camping. So I thought that today we could turn this video into a guide to teach you how we find the best remote wild camping spots, because it really is what makes this lifestyle so incredible. So first, let's go over the easy ways to find spots. And then second, we'll show you our special tips to find the absolute perfect places to park your van. So the first thing that we usually do is figure out if the country that we're in is wild camping even legal. Because if it's legal, that's gonna mean it's gonna be much easier to find spots. But if it's illegal, it's not completely off the table. You just have to be a little bit more creative about where you park your van at night. So one of the first things that we do is we usually check a few different apps that show where other people have been parking their vans. So a couple that we like are Camper Contact, Park for the Night, and in different countries there's different options. So just look online and see if there's any good ones near you. Once you look at those spots, you can see reviews about each of the spots. Usually there's even photos, and that's really helpful at first. So, right now we're in Croatia and wild camping is pretty tricky. So in some of the spots it will be like, oh, the police moved me on last night. And you can actually look at reviews and see, not always in real time, but close to it, what's happening at each of these spots. But the only issue with using the apps is that usually there's a lot of other camper vans there. So while it's great for finding a free spot, it's not always the best for finding the best spot. So to do that, we have a few other techniques. One of the first ones we usually do is just look at Google Maps, and then you can use Street View and actually walk through some of these areas digitally to find empty parking lots or kind of remote areas that doesn't look like it would bother anyone if you just stayed for one night.
So the first step when looking at Google Maps to find a spot to sleep for the night is to switch to satellite view. This way you'll be looking at actual photographs of the landscape, and that'll help quite a bit. So for this example, we're looking in Peniche, Portugal, and as you can see from some of the store labels, this is a surfing town, which is already a good sign because surfers generally live in vans. And right here is a nice big public parking lot. There's quite a few vans there. It looks pretty crowded and you might have to pay, but it's definitely a backup option if you're driving around and you can't find anything and you just need to pull in somewhere and sleep. Oh, where that van is right there on that gravel patch, that would be a free option, but it looks a little bit crowded and it's right by a busy road. So let's follow some of these gravel roads and see if we can find a better spot. The best way to find wild camping spots is to just follow a gravel road like this one right here out of town and try and stay close to the ocean at the same time. And then maybe you'll be able to find a small parking lot that surfers use during the day but could be empty at night. Oh, so here we go. This is a nice small parking lot, and this right here looks like the perfect spot to wild camp. And that's what we did. We found this spot for Dana's birthday, and we ended up staying here, I think, for 2 weeks. And it was one of the most beautiful spots we ever found. So that's the basic strategy. You just follow gravel dirt roads out of town, you try and stay close to the ocean, and if you're lucky, you'll end up with a spot like this.
So first we would do Google Maps. Then another option that we do a lot is that once we've actually gotten comfortable in an area, Lou and I love to go on walks. And so especially when you're in small towns, if you just walk around, you might find a dirt road that's amazing, and at the end there's a perfect spot to park your van. For us, we've had the best luck wild camping in Greece and in Portugal. Like, hands down, those countries, if you're in Europe in a van, go to Greece or go to Portugal, because you can wild camp so easily and get beautiful spots right on the water and really find relaxing, calm areas. And I feel like it's much nicer to be in countries that are open to vans than to be in places that are really not van friendly, because then you're kind of fighting the system the whole time. You end up having to stay a lot at campsites because it's too difficult, or you're kind of trapped inside your van because you don't want people to know you're in there, because then they could tell you to move on. So that would be another recommendation, is like go to places that are open to vans. And if you're in Europe, those places are definitely Greece and Portugal. So this wouldn't be a full video without explaining what makes a good wild camping spot for me and Lou. This is something we've learned over the course of many, many months exploring Europe in our van. But for us, a great wild camping spot is something that is remote, ideally next to the ocean, something that has a good breeze because it makes sleeping at night so much easier. My favorite is when there are stray dogs or other animals that you can make friends with, because it just makes it feel like really cozy and fun. Another thing is that when there's nobody else there. So that means not only other camper vans, but no traffic. I think that's one of the things that's so interesting once you get used to living in a van, is that having cars drive by is much louder than you'd think. And even though some roads might seem remote, they have shockingly a lot more traffic than you'd think. In a small town, if there's one road, there are going to be people driving there in the middle of the night. So you want to find places like where we are right now, which is not only in a small town place, but it's further away from the center, so that there's really almost nobody going by the van. And if they were to go by, it's almost, 500 feet from the car. When somebody goes by really close, like, it wakes you up and it's kind of startling. So that would be my other thing. Another amazing thing is when you get a remote spot that has access to a public shower. This is tricky to find by far. Like, checking all of these boxes is almost impossible. It's been done a few times, but almost impossible. But I think the thing is, it's like if you get enough of these things, like a good breeze at night and no loud noises, then you can get a good night's sleep. You can feel secure and safe in your van. Oh, that's the other thing. When you're trying to find spots, it's much easier to find your parking spot when it's still daylight. Once the sun goes down and you're trying to find a spot at night, you really don't have all of the senses you need to make sure that you're in a safe spot and that you won't be moved on in the night. So we always try to park our car when there's still daytime, and ideally we've already looked around and spent about half an hour trying to find a good spot that's secluded and away from any noise and any police. One other thing is that when you're trying to find a good wild camping spot, it's really important that you're not trying to go to a very tourist heavy location. So it's like, if you are thinking of a top 10 location in a country and you want to go wild camping there, I really wouldn't recommend it. You want to go places that are off the beaten path, that aren't so crowded, that are much calmer, and I promise it will be much more fun for van life anyway, because being surrounded by a ton of tourists and being crowded kind of, for us at least, takes away the fun of van life. And it's about experiencing simpler, slower travel styles. And I think, yeah, for me, wild camping isn't about sightseeing. It's about just having a calm, relaxed experience that's closer to nature and closer to why we chose to live in a van. A big thank you to Squarespace for sponsoring this video and for helping us launch our new ebook, Live Creatively, in our online shop. Having a simple, easy-to-use website that still looks beautiful has been super helpful these past few months especially. We had to learn how to self-publish an ebook, how to record, edit, and distribute an audiobook, but building our online store took only a couple easy steps. If you'd like to set up your own little shop, photography portfolio, or website, head to squarespace.com/wildweroam to get 10% off your first purchase. Thanks so much.